Let's do it. Let's learn with our mistakes and be ambitious and have audacity to come together. I want to know how we can manage the pieces now, how our action will contribute not to raise temperature anymore, or how indeed we can come into solutions to facilitate developing economies, to share trajectories, because South-South means.
In the course of history, there are women who inspire, whose work left its mark on the history of their countries and their people and beyond. Isabella Teixeira is one such person. Isabella, during your time as Minister of Environment of Brazil, you adopted actions and policies that achieved an 84% reduction in deforestation between 2004 and 2012, less than a decade. It's a remarkable feat that shows courage and determination. I'll get right into my first question. Deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon rose to an all-time high in 2022, 80% higher than in 2018. Why do you believe such deterioration took place at such record time?
When Brazil took decision to tackle deforestation, it was during the first term of President Lula. And you also have the former Minister Marina Silva, that they took a decision to run this agenda in a different way. So you have a plan that was reviewed along the time, and that's why I have the lowest rates of deforestation during my term. What it means? You had political will, okay, to tackle deforestation and to end deforestation in Brazil. Also, President Lula, in his second term, took a decision he went to Copenhagen COP. And Brazil, as a developing country, an emerging economy, without any obligation to cut emissions, we proposed our national plan on climate change, based on business as usual scenarios. And you had deforestation, tackle deforestation, one of the key pillars of our strategy to manage climate change in our country. Again, political decision and political will. And also, we prepare our institutions, okay, not only the environmental ones, but the economic ones, to come exactly together with us and to connect the right dots, to make sure that Brazil could implement economic growth without damaging our nature, without going against Atlantic forest and also Amazon forest. So we have a set of rules, a set of laws, legal framework, and also the high commitment with the Brazilian society to support this political decision. We were aligned with the National Congress at that time, okay? And it was very important to observe how our democracy hosts our decision to tackle deforestation, because this is based on illegalities, and also this allows Brazil to have social inequalities so deep, because you come with organized crime, it comes with hunger, it comes with fear, it comes together with the weakness of the institutional and also public service in Brazil. This was until you have this government in Brazil. You have a trajectory. We cannot change reality without step-by-step process. We need to understand the local realities. Amazonia is so huge, and we have a diversity of social and economic situations that even consider biodiversity, also natural situations. And unfortunately, Brazil, with the decision of the election of the actual government, we setbacks. And it was so fast. Even for us to understand what's happened in the last 4 years, I think this is a combination of political will against this agenda. The Brazilian government today, unfortunately, is absolutely against multilateral agenda, against climate change, against everything. They are climate negationists, okay? They still believe that our leadership as a society and also as a government will be based on not be together with nature. It will be against nature. It's like this president wants to be the leader of the last century, not the leader of the new century, of this century we are living. So we need really to understand what's happened in Brazil to avoid that this happen in the future, okay? And this is a clear message that we have today from the Brazilian society when we run this election. And you have, again, a new, not only hope, but we understand that we need a huge challenge to bring deforestation, to stop deforestation in the past, again, without any setbacks in the future. And for this, we need to build up some innovative political arrangement, also institutional arrangement, and to convince Brazilian society that unfortunately today is split, is fragmented, but still our democracy is so robust that we are there to come together to learn how to build, to grow with nature. This is a new mindset, a new planetary mindset that we have today, the big challenge that we have today. And for this, based on my experience, probably we need a new pact, a new political, democratic pact with Brazilians, with our society, to make sure that you can connect the subnational players, that you can connect the scientists players, that you can connect the business leaders, everyone, to make sense that we have new trajectory, consider our future, and how we can be better in the future. So we need, it's not something that wishful saying, no, this is based on concrete reality, how we can transform or be transformative in short-term perspective, and how we can act to allow people to feel that you can have well-being, new lifestyles, but based in our desires, in our in how indeed we can play as citizens to make the difference in the right direction. So local solutions is very important for global solutions, or global co-benefits. Transboundary, and also, you know that Brazilian society, we used to be a people that embrace the world. Solidarity is very important for us, okay? And we had the last 4 years under high pressure, fragmented us. And we need to try to bring people together again. And not only to promote solutions for Brazilian society, for Brazilians, but also how we can share these solutions with the rest of the world. Brazil is a country with alternatives and also with singularities, like Amazon region, like our tropical agriculture. We need to connect climate with hunger eradication and poverty eradication. It's really need to be provocative. We need audacity. Because if you are one of the best and the most important food producers in the world, why you cannot come in, not only to solve hunger in our country, but also how we can come in alliance, an international alliance with the food producers countries to have short-term actions, to provide solutions for that one that needs solutions, and also share technology to have food security and nutrition security in the next years. We cannot think about 1.5 as something that is a target that everyone would like to achieve, as something that's a long-term perspective. Okay, but we need short-term actions. What you have today on the table is 1.2. Okay, so I prefer to debate how we can act and react concerning climate change and also the triple environmental crisis or planetary crisis. Consider 1.2. It's not 1.5. 1.5 is long-term perspective. I want to know how we can manage the pieces now, okay, how our action will contribute not to raise temperature anymore, or how indeed we can come into solutions to facilitate developing economies, to have the same, to share trajectories, because South-South means. And this is very important to observe, because it's a new way to express politically our commitment and our co-responsibility. And this is, for me, a new vision that should come under the leadership of multilateral system. This moment of reform the multilateral system, make sure that we can come together. We must come together, but we need to understand the role of developing emerging economies and the role of the South-South cooperation. It's not only North and South. They are very important, and Brazil is a country that plays in different contexts, but also West and Eastern world. And we need to connect societies, not only governments. We need societies to be connected, because people knows how to solve problems. Government not necessarily knows how to do this very fast, and don't have any time to buy anymore. I'm sorry.
There is so much to unpack in this one question, and our time is limited. But maybe I'll go back to the Amazon for a second, because I know this is your life's work as well. I mean, you've done a lot, but this is one of the things that history, I suppose, will mark. Did you feel at some point that your life's work was kind of destroyed? And yet, I feel so much hope and determination when you talk about the future. Is this reversible? the personal one. How did you feel?
I remember in 2019, I was invited to be in the climate summit in New York one day before the General Assembly. And it was fantastic to see the new political effort under the control, under the leadership of the Secretary General and other leaders, international leaders, trying to manage this ambition that we have achieved in Paris Agreement, but we need more. And the science was saying, do more. And I remember that I was there, and I remember that I cried a lot because Brazil was so disappointed. And it was really the first momentum internationally that I have a dimension of the setbacks that we exposed. And I remember that some friends, we were together, like Mary Robson, Al Gore, Al Gore hugged me and said, we will do a lot. You know how to do a lot. And what's happening in Brazil? Okay, what's happening with Brazil today? And this was something that I will never forget, because it was the first moment internationally that we have the dimension how Brazil will be out of the game, okay, or would be out of the game. And I was so shocked. And this is very interesting, not only because what's happening in our society, and unfortunately, you have the setbacks and the weakness of the public service, of the institutional arrangements, how people, how the political rooms for people engagement so fragmented, et cetera, But I remember, it's clear still today, how Brazil, how important we were to have Rio Plus 20 conference, to go into Sustainable Development Goals, to propose this, and also how we managed Nagoya Protocol, Minamata Convention, and Paris Agreement. So it was really, for Brazil to perform this way, we need to be together with other countries and other societies. And that message was absolutely clear: we will not be together anymore. And Brazil is a country that is we play based on solidarity. We used to be a society that we like to embrace people because we have the diversity of people of the world as our society. Brazil is a country that hosts migration, and this is based in what we are as people. So if we can restore, I think, yes, I do believe, and we have the first sign-on now with the election of the President Lula. And it was a powerful answer for Brazilian society and for our democracy, that we need to be back to solve the problems that unfortunately back is not only deforestation, but poverty. Brazil was able to eradicate poverty and hunger. And unfortunately today, we have poverty again, and we have hunger again. We have around 30 million of Brazilians that have hunger today. This is unacceptable, one of the most important food producers in the world. So the setbacks, they are so huge. But also the hope, it's so huge. The force and the political will of the Brazilian society and the new generation that they came together with us to make sure that you have our democracy stronger and stronger and stronger. That's why I have hope, and more than this, I have political will to work hard as a citizen to move this piece in the right direction. It's not only Brazil be back. I think that the challenge is how you can make sure that the new process that you want to build, that you need to build up, will be sure that in the future Brazil will not have additional new setbacks. So this is a step-by-step process. Unfortunately, you have this complexity, consider organized crime in the Amazon region to go against deforestation. It's not only deforestation. Deforestation is the umbrella. Under this umbrella, you have illegal gold mining, you have public grabbing lands, you have violence, et cetera, et cetera. I have hunger and poverty. But I'm confident that Brazilian society, we are able to come. We have to really work hard as citizens, need to go into civil rights, need to go into human rights. It's impressive the dimension of setbacks have to have today in Brazil. But I'm confident that you can move the piece in the right direction in the next 4 years, and prepare to renew our political leaderships by 2026 and 2030. And also how Brazil has the powerful, it's so powerful to come into the world to try to bring other societies together. Solidarity is very important. As I mentioned, we are country with alternatives and solutions. We have technologies. You should share this technology, for example, in food production in the world, for the countries that unfortunately they cannot access this. We have natural resources. We need to provide innovative agendas for how we can use this based on efficiency, how we can avoid waste, how we can use this to tackle deforestation and also biodiversity loss and also pollution. So we need to use better our solution. We need to have a new understanding of our role in this century. Again, it's not based on the past, it's based on today, consider the future. You need to bring the future to the present, to take the right direction, to take the right decisions, to make sure that we will be better in the future, but we will not be better alone, okay? My feeling is that international cooperation means that we must come together, and more than this, we need to act. And this is really important to highlight here, because we don't need to discuss a lot. Okay, we need to provide plans and we need to provide platforms to act. Okay, and this is a clear message that Brazil must share with the international community. We need to go faster and start playing based on realities. We need to land the solutions. We need to come into the reality of people to make sure the Brazilian society, for Marys, Johns, and other ones, that they are part of the solution of the game, not more part of the problem. This means share responsibilities, means also share hope, and make sure that the citizens will understand or be engaged in the educational political process to make sure that they understand what environmental crisis means and how nature should come together with us, not against us. So we need to make sure that all people in Brazil understand their role.
Bringing the multi-stakeholder component in, which you've just referred to, you have been remarkable in supporting the launch of the UN Science Policy Business Forum in the early days when we were still trying to find a common language between policymakers, the private sector, the science sector, and you came in and you sat with the private sector, some of the most prominent companies in the world, and you said, no, this is the vision, this is how we work together. Give me a little bit of that vision now here, because some of these ones that they feel that they are doing better, saying we are at the margins of the COPs, we are not really part of the solution, and we have achieved only that much in the past 50 years in terms of multilateralism. How do we safeguard the process? How do we prevent greenwashing? But very importantly, how do we ensure that the technology sector, the industrial sector, the private sector, the finance sector, they have a bigger role to play, and the accountabilities of both government and these sectors is on the table in terms of accountability, checks and balances?
I'm absolutely a pragmatic woman, and I learned to be, I'm optimist, but pragmatic. And if you go into scientific acknowledgement and you go also into the indigenous people and traditional acknowledgement, you know that you can have the solutions. But planetary dimension is a new geopolitical dimension. It's not a global one. We are managing a new dimension this century because we are managing the planetary crisis. When you go into planetary boundaries or common goods, etc., you have this pandemic. This is a spoiler of a planetary crisis, okay? And it's very interesting to observe that we need all of people together. Governments and private sector leaders, scientific leaders, civil society, everyone. This is exactly what the Paris Agreement established, because we have a chapter dedicated to non-state actors. And this means not only to be engaged and share funds, because we used to come to discuss climate finance, it's very important, etc. But it means share responsibilities. You have everyone has a role to play. It's not only take a picture, come here to take a picture. And you need to understand that the solutions on climate is not only will happen here in COPs, because this is really a huge crisis, so transformative. The way that we live in this planet, exactly because we are managed with nature. And nature is something that's intangible. So, sorry. We need to convince the guys that they are part of the solutions. And that we need to open some political rooms, innovative political rooms for dialogue. People here like to talk a lot. It's part of the political process. Politics will talk. But we need to hear people. This is different because if you close our mouths as a political players and invite the other ones to sit at the table with us, the diversity of voice, exactly what's happening today in the world, what is the key point? We need to act. We should not postpone anything. And we need funds, but we need funds to promote development. So climate finance will overlapping with development finance. Okay? So we need to bring other players, other adults into the room. We need the Minister of Finance to come to this environmental, this ecosystem, as people like to say now, political ecosystem, to take decision in the right direction. My feeling is that you still have the old disputes blocking the new political disputes that you need to address the world. Of course, that you have the geopolitical arrangement, I know about this. You have a war, you have this polarized situation with the United States and China. But come on, nature, climate, there are issues that we cannot allow to jump in this agenda, these political ones, because this will impact all our lives. So I think that, as you saw in Glasgow, United States and China came together. It's a good declaration, okay? I know that informally they have been discussing, and this is very important to know how to manage the peace. You have all the efforts of the Secretary General, and next year you have Bretton Woods reform, and also 2004 you have the summit for the future. It's very important to understand how would you like to mobilize people to be engaged? It's not only to invite, to have meetings, or to have side events. What are the actions that you should promote to be there? It's not only travel. What are the concrete actions that should be allowed us to join? When you go into innovation and for example, technological transformation, we learn with when you go UNCTAD reports that one of the problems that we have in the past that made mistakes to share technologies, the impact, what is the consequence? We contribute for social inequality in the world. We learn, we have all the reports there. Okay, it's unacceptable for me that we cannot move, for example, to have an international fund with some technology that people, free technology, people can access to solve. And also to come, for example, to poorest country in the world and to provide solutions for develop for the poorest country in the world. I cannot only act based on the biggest emitters, carbon emitters in the world. We need to have this diversity of strategies because hunger will not wait for 20 years. Who has hunger cannot wait more. Okay, who doesn't have a house cannot wait more. Who lives in cities in a vulnerable place, they cannot wait more. So I think that we need audacity, political audacity, to propose some innovative movements, and private sector part of this, because if you want to solve some problems, it's not only the trillions of the dollars of private sector and the billions of dollars of public sector. We need to be committed, not because we want to solve the problem, because we want to act now. The commitment is to how you can act now. So if I have a community that needs food, okay, how we will provide food in short-term perspective, but how we will come together to solve that problem and make sure that the guys will be able to to become farmers. And how transformative. The costs are so low when you go into private education.
And
So
short-term,
low cost. When you compare, for example, with fossil fuels, incentives, et cetera, et cetera. Come on. I cannot be free of fossil fuels in short-term perspective. I know this. But what would be the strategy to phasing down and phasing out?
and you're advocating this as a strategy, that it is essential to have the long term, but it is also essential to have the short and medium term.
Yes, as I mentioned, if you try to simplify things, we need to move from 1.2 to below 1.5. Or we need to stay 1.2. Or we need to move from 1.2 to 1.3. this is if it's easier for even for a child to understand the challenges. And if you go into the private sector and make it clear that a country like mine, like Brazil, we have this vision, we have this strategy, we have this commitment to make sure that you can cut emissions, that you can tackle deforestation, but you can also adopt innovative political policies and innovative political commitments together with private sector and also society to promote adaptation and to go into decarbonizing strategy. I'm sure that Brazil will, all the Brazilians will understand that we are adding or not, okay, emissions. And this is easy. It's easy to, even a child can understand. So it's not only the lack of ambition, we need to translate this pledge and concrete actions and make sure that we have plans. If the plans are not enough, let's support to have good plans. Okay, if you can able only to have a 3-year plans, let's support to have a 3-year plans. Let's understand better what transition means. We need to understand the politics of transition is not the politics of postponing things. Okay, you need to have the short-term perspective, the politics of transition, but our ambition is to have the new politics of transformation, because we're looking forward to transform the world based on the low carbon economy, and also based on the new behavior between humanity and nature. So it's a way, in my opinion, the big challenge. You need new lens to see the world in this century. My feeling is still that you're using the lens that you used in the last century. I know that this problem came from the last 200 years, but we are in 21st century. This is the convergence of the climate age with technological age. Okay, this means that we need to understand what future generation means. It's different than it was in the last century in the Have Rio Plus 20 conference, because future generation, they are here today. When we discuss climate change here in Rio conference, we have the scenario for the end of this century. But if you have a child today, probably will be alive at the end of the century. So it's not the future. You're discussing your family today. You're discussing my family today. People are there. It's not someone that will come in the future. They are here.
We have to change the conversation.
We have to change the conversation. We need to, absolutely, we cannot use the same words that we need political will. Come on. We need to act. If we commit to have mistakes, okay, no problem. But we're acting. We need to move the piece in the right direction. And this, for me, that's, I think I mentioned in the past. You remember me that I said in Nagoya Protocol when we end the negotiation, there is no need to talk anymore. Okay, we need to act. 12 years later, 13 years later, almost 13 years later, we're still talking. I know that politics, people like to talk. I like to talk a lot. But I like to talk based on actions, in outcomes, and results, in trade-offs. What are the barriers that we need to solve to such a way that we can improve actions, and not only based on problems. Problems, I know the dimension of the problems, okay? But unfortunately, I think that some tribes, people like to postpone things. But there is no time to buy. I'm sorry, but it's true. Nature is here. It's there. Make sure that, hello. And as you know, as an environmentalist, used to say that people always forgive. God forgive. Nature never forgive. So remember this, because this is nature. And we need to come with political, concrete concepts. Okay? It's not open concepts anymore. So my feeling that zero, it's ambition. But how would you like to discuss ambition from 2050 to 2070? Okay? Let's try to discuss from 2023 to 2025, 2030, because this means short-term perspective. And I am very interested to know how politics of transitions will play to act now. How will decoupling this problem and how will coupling solutions with well-being? Because for people, well-being matters. And this need to learn how to couple solutions and not only decoupling problems. And this is really a clear political measure that we need to manage.
As chair of the International Resources Panel, and you can
Yes,
hear that.
Yeah, the Absolute International Resource Panel. We are coming with our flagship by 2024. This Global Resource Outlook. And this is very important that people observe or pay attention on this, because we discuss carbon. Nobody knows what carbon is. Nobody can see carbon. Did you see carbon? No. Okay. Biodiversity, you can see landscapes and nature. But when you go into natural resource, everyone understands what it means. And unfortunately, we are running fast. The overexploitation of natural resource, not able to don't have stocks of natural resource to be able to host 10 billion people in the planet. So we need to be efficient. We need to decouple this. We need to new methods. We need to understand what economic growth means. But economic growth is based also in human rights. It's based also in human development. And that's why we have been discussing United Nations, for example, new values, new perspectives, and how we should come, why humankind matters. Because we can express some feelings that the other animal cannot express, or the species cannot express. So solidarity, how we can embrace people, how we can come together. It's not something that it's empty speech. No, this is what people need, okay? And when we are hungry, okay, we need people that can see you and try to help you. We need to see people. This is the problem that we have today. We're not seeing people. We are seeing our economic perspectives, etc. And if you go into solidarity, make the difference when you go into a city that have hunger, okay, when they have a place, and we go there with solutions, you bring food, you bring medicines. I never forget the smiles, okay, that people said, you came. And this is what we need to do every day until it can be transformative, okay, until you can transform the world and make sure that, of course, that you have inequality, but not so deep as we have today. This is so unfair, okay, it's so deeply unfair. And we need to change it. So I think that when Brazil is looking forward to be back, I hope that this society understand better what will be our role in the world. It's not only to manage climate change, to have Amazon protect. We need to protect the ocean. Brazil has more than 8,000 kilometers in our coast zone. We need to protect the oceans, okay? This is also part of the equation of the solutions of climate change. And that's why I mentioned that we need this new lens. And Brazil must make stronger our democracy, because we are discussing about rights and also obligations. And this means that we need to tell new stories about the future. We cannot go to the future based on old stories. This is our challenge. I hope that you can understand that COP is very important, etc. But I think that the power of the society indeed is out of the COPs. Okay, and we need to convince people to act. Act now. Make the difference. Have your choice. I give an example to end this interview. When you discuss deforestation and beef production, for example, people used to say that Brazil has high pressure of livestock because of deforestation. But what nobody discusses is that 75% of beef production in Brazil, 75%, they are consumed by Brazilians. So the first society that must be able to eat without deforestation, exactly Brazilian society. Okay, so it's like international. I need that these actions will benefit my people. So Brazilian society will be on board together with the rest of the world, make sure that we are in the right direction. If not, we need an inclusive process, not to exclusion people. And this is a good example how you can take photos, and sometimes people don't understand what's happened. And 35% of the beef production in Brazil, 35, happens in Amazon region. 65 is not in Amazon region. And we have jobs, so it's a big challenge to change things, but to make clear that when you change, we allow people to come together to be part of the solutions. So I'd like that people in Brazil could buy it without deforestation and could be back to buy it because you are able to eradicate hunger. So this is how we need to connect the dots. And connecting the dots means that we bring humankind together. I hope so. And I'm confident that we can do this in this new momentum together with Secretary General, together with scientist panels, with scientific information, with indigenous people, everyone. We need this new way to deal with our planetary problems. Okay, it's not again based on what the lens that you have in the past, but please bring a new lens and let's see the world in a different way. And let's do it. We have 8 years to manage the pieces and to make sure that this transition will allow us to believe in us. Humankind must believe in humankind. This is a big challenge. I'm sorry, but sometimes I think that humanity, we cannot see how powerful you are. And this is a new expression of humanism. Okay, the green wave must also allow us a new enlightenment age and a new humanism. Okay, because we want to only discuss war. We need to discuss peace. It's a climate peace that should emerge into the humanity today. In nature, it's absolutely the new mainstream of development in this century. So it's like, let's do it, let's learn with our mistakes and be ambitious and have audacity to come together. It's not to provide one solution, the audacity is to come together.
Isabella, for well over 2 decades, we have seen you host Rio Plus 20. We've seen you be an architect of the Paris Agreement, a warrior for the Amazon forest, and for societies looking for sustainability, working for sustainability all over the world. Isabella, we cannot wait to see what you do next.
I'm a Brazilian woman, okay, and I'm as a also co-chair of the Interjustice Force panel, also other institutions in UN that I'm very proud to be part of. I think that my key message: let's be simple. It's so simple that you can look just behind you or look in your next room to see that you can change. You have inequalities around the world, even in the rich countries. If you're able to open the door, jump into the room, and try to solve the problems. Your neighborhood, your environment. Go there, and try to make the difference in a positive way. Be sure that you have a better world. Okay, if take decision to stay in our homes, no, forget it. So I have in Brazil last week. Somebody asked me what you need to do, and I said, please never open, never give up of your responsibilities. Never. Okay, we are responsible for the change. If you want to change, you need to act. You need to act. Not to share, not to transfer this for anyone. Okay, look around, check. If you go here, you can see here. You can see that you can act. So never give up of your role, of your responsibility. Never. Nobody will replace you. Nobody. And you can make the difference. So I think that this is what Isabella is looking to do, and not looking for to have to be minister. No, come on. Let's work together with the global civil society and make sure that we can move the piece in the right direction. And nature will embrace us, okay? And I think that this is time of the South-South cooperation. This is time of us, of emerging economies, developing economies, to have a powerful voice, not only to ask for transfer funds, this is necessary, but to show, come on, guys, you can provide solutions. Okay, again, you need to renew the political agenda. If you're not able to do this, okay, you need new leadership. We are in the 21st century, and not in the past. So let's have the future today. Let's take the right directions, the right decision, and make sure that the trade-offs are so difficult sometimes. But okay, we need to understand trade-offs, never give up, but never give up of your responsibilities. This is, I understand, this is my grandmother said this one, and never forget it. I never say, okay, I am responsible for something, let's do it. Thank you very much.